We've talked a lot about Carolina. What can you tell us about the Panthers and Baker?
Yeah, Mike, the sense I was getting just a few weeks ago was that the Carolina Panthers had zero interest in Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield kind of had zero interest in the Panthers. And now it seems that has changed a bit. But in terms of when we could see actual movement, I was told from a Panther source, this is not going to go down before the draft. That's if they were to trade for Baker Mayfield. Remember, there's a lot that goes into this in terms of Baker's contract. He's owed roughly $19 million, right? And that's something that the Cleveland Browns really do not want to have to pay at all. So it's really to come down to what team is going to be willing to take on that deal. And as of right now, from the sources I've talked to around the league, there isn't a team that wants to take on that contract.
It's interesting. Now, you say that it's not going to happen before the draft. The Panthers have the 6th pick in the draft. A lot of people wonder if they'll take a quarterback there. Maybe that will determine if they need to make a trade or not. But before I bring the other guys in, let me put the panel up there again from what Robbie Anderson said, because if Carolina does get Baker Mayfield, they'll have to deal with this. Robbie Anderson, their receiver, responding to the notion of getting Baker Mayfield as his quarterback with those words, no. And if you look at the collection of quarterbacks he played with in New York, you think to yourself, wow, and he won't play with Baker Mayfield.
He's like, no, not again.
That's really saying, sort of like that. So Lewis, I want to frame the question this way. You've got Robbie Anderson literally saying no. You've got a league in which teams are willing to move heaven and earth to do anything they can to get a quarterback. And here's Baker Mayfield, who just a few years ago was the first pick in the draft, and no one seems to be willing to move anything to get him. What is the league saying to Baker Mayfield, Lewis?
That your talent doesn't trump all the other things that you bring along with you right now. You're not one of those types of players that will overlook some of the things from a football character standpoint that could negatively affect our locker room. That's what the league is telling you. And any team that brings him in at this point really does need to sit down and talk to Baker about exactly what he would be bringing to the football team and what they expect from him from a leadership perspective. Look, we talk about this when we're talking about quarterback makeup with every single player, especially at that position, and how important it is. How important it is to have a positive impact on the players around you. Just not what you can do to make them better on the field as far as your throwing ability, but what do you do to inspire them to put in extra work and be someone that the rest of the team will follow and follow your example. And look, Baker right now, I don't think anybody is following his example. No one was following it in Cleveland. And look, there's enough circumstantial evidence from other players around the league that suggests that, look, not many other players want to follow his example right now. So I think if you're a prospective team in terms of, employing Baker down the road, you have to take it slowly with this. You have to make sure that you vet this situation properly, because quite honestly, if you're entertaining bringing him in right now, then that probably means that you're pretty much running out of options as far as how you're going to address the position. And if you're going to bring him in, understand that it could potentially make the situation worse if he has not learned from some of the mistakes that he has made in Cleveland in terms of his leadership style and how it subsequently affects the rest of the locker room.
I mean, that's strong words, but it's hard to argue with them. Mike T., when I asked you that same question this morning, you had a very specific answer, so I'll ask it again. What is the league specifically saying to Baker Mayfield?
Shh, quiet down. Very similar to what Lewis just said. Be a problem solver. You look at the last year or so, Tyrod Taylor had a lung punctured. Matt Ryan may be the greatest quarterback in the history of the Falcons. Neither guy went off on social media. We need you to be a leader. We need you to help change the locker room for the better. And when you see Robbie Anderson's comment, that's just very indicative of what people feel. Now, hopefully Baker Mayfield's humbled by this, Greeny, and I have firsthand experience. In 1998 at the Jets, we signed Vinny Testaverde, the former #1 pick overall, who had a disappointing career in June, and he led us to the championship game that year. So his career is not over, and let's hope that he learns from what's going on now, which is right now the noise just isn't worth his production.
Yeah, and look, and Dianna, I can't argue with the word they're saying. Here's the reality. I mean, not only was he the first pick in the draft 4 years ago, 2 years ago, the season before this past one, he led them to the playoffs. He won a playoff game. He played well in that loss against Kansas City. We're not that far removed from him playing pretty well, so it is remarkable where it's gone so quickly.
Yeah, and guys, I've covered the Browns for years with Baker Mayfield on this team, and I never got the sense that he was a bad leader. That was never, I never walked away from a game thinking Baker is not the right guy here. Are there flaws? Absolutely. I don't think this is so much about who Baker Mayfield is as a player. I think this has a lot to do with where the market's at, team needs, quarterback spots are filled at this point, but also going back to that contract. How much is Cleveland willing to eat there on that deal?
But you don't think that the Odell dad thing, that felt like a bad thing for him?
Yeah, but look, we can split hairs on all this. Odell's done some good things. Odell has done some bad things in terms of his own value, his own work. And maybe that didn't work. That's okay.
Yeah.
Not every relationship
when
is
his
going
dad
to
posts
work.
that thing, and usually the entire world rallies around your quarterback when that happens, and instead it felt like half that locker room was on the other side.
Yeah, there was a point when I had a lot of conversations with coaches on the staff as well, including head coach Kevin Stefanski, and they were all in on Baker Mayfield and what he could do. Did they think he was an elite quarterback? Did they think he was at the level of now, let's say, Deshaun Watson? No, I never got that sense, but they felt that he could lead this team. Right now, he just doesn't have a job. And I do think a lot of his talking that we saw last week when he went on that podcast, I think a lot of that is panic. I think he's looking at the league right now going, where am I going to go? And that's a normal reaction. And maybe just not the best, right, Mike?
Let's see if he listens to what the suggestions here were from Lewis and Mike Tannenbaum, who are people who know about these decisions. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.